The courtyard of the Silvercrest Keep shimmered beneath falling snow. Torches burned low, their flames bending toward the wind that came down from the high ridge. It carried the scent of winter pine and old stone, and the sharp trace of fear that always followed a claiming ceremony. Wolves stood in a wide circle, cloaked in grey and black, the air heavy with the sound of restrained heartbeats. She stood at the center, Lyra. Omega born of no house, no line. The last to be called that night, her hands were bare, her palms open as the moon priestess brushed silver ash across her wrists, the mark that meant she could be chosen or rejected. At the edge of the circle stood the Alpha King, Kalen Thorn, his shoulders broad beneath the mantle of black fur, his gaze unreadable in the torchlight. His wolf, they said, could break through iron gates with a single roar. The priestess's voice rose above the wind. "Step forward, Alpha. The bond waits to be seen." Salen did not move at first. His jaw flexed once. A ripple went through the crowd, warriors whispering, she-wolves holding their breath. Then he took one step forward, boots crunching in the snow, and the circle seemed to tighten around them both. Lyra lifted her eyes to his. The moment she did, the world narrowed, until there was only the pulse between them. A thread of heat, gold and aching, pulling like gravity. Her wolf stirred inside, hopeful and trembling. She felt his scent coil through her veins, cedar, rain, something ancient. But his voice, when it came, was steady stone. "I do not claim you." The words hit the air like frost. The torches flickered. Someone gasped. Lyra's breath left her in a soundless cry. She had known rejection before, from pack and blood alike, but never like this. Never with the bond half-formed, burning in her chest like a brand only he could cool. The priestess hesitated. "Alpha, it is my right," Kalen said, eyes still fixed on Lyra. "The bond is refused." Snow began to fall harder, turning the world white. Lyra's fingers closed over the ash on her wrists. Her voice came soft, cracked but whole. "I accept your rejection, Alpha." The silence that followed was a wound that bled across the night. No one moved to stop her when she turned. Her cloak dragged through the snow as she walked between the wolves, past their pitying eyes. The gates of Silvercrest groaned open and shut behind her with a sound like finality. For a long while she could still feel his gaze on her back, a weight she could not shake. Then the forest swallowed her. The snow deepened as she climbed the mountain path. Beyond the ridges the valley lights of the kingdom shimmered like distant stars. Her breath came in clouds, her wolf restless beneath her skin. Each heartbeat said the same thing: keep moving, keep breathing, do not look back. The rejection mark still burned faintly on her wrists, silver ash mingled with red. She pressed her palms to her heart and whispered to no one, "It's done. You're free now." But freedom felt like emptiness with edges. She reached a clearing where the ruins of an old watchtower stood. There she lit a small fire with trembling hands, the flame catching on dry pine needles. The warmth hurt. Everything hurt, the kind of pain that comes only when something meant for you turns away. Still, she refused to weep. Lyra looked up at the moons, twin crescents crossing above the peaks, and said again, louder this time, as if the mountains needed to hear it, "I accept your rejection, Alpha." The wind answered her, a low, distant howl. And somewhere in the valley below, the Alpha King turned sharply from his throne room window, as if the echo of her voice had found him through the storm. When he closed his eyes, he saw her standing in the snow, her eyes too calm for the moment she was breaking. He told himself it was necessary. The decree from the Moon Court had been clear. No bond with the outcast line until the prophecy mark was proven false. One rejection to keep the realm safe. One broken heart to preserve peace. And yet, as the night deepened, he felt it. A thin silver thread pulling through his ribs, humming like a living thing. A bond that refused to die. He set down the cup, fists tightening until the goblet bent in his hand. His wolf growled low, ancient and furious. Somewhere in the wilderness, she was still breathing. And that meant, it wasn't over. Kalen Thorn was a man who could command armies, but not his own mind. 3 nights had passed since the ceremony, and still he woke before dawn, breath raw, the taste of snow on his tongue. Each time he dreamed, he found himself in the same place. a clearing of frost and firelight, and the scent of her. Lyra. The name haunted him like an unfinished vow. He had sworn before the Moon Court that he would reject her for the safety of the realm. That if the bond appeared, he would sever it. Yet every night, when his wolf slipped past the walls of sleep, it sought her out. He would find her in the dream, kneeling beside a wounded wolf, her hands glowing with soft light, whispering to it the same words she had said to him. "I accept your rejection, Alpha." But in the dream, those words did not sound like surrender. They sounded like prophecy. Kaelin's wolf paced the edge of his consciousness, restless. "She carries your mark," it said. "No, I refused her. You spoke the words." The wolf does not lie. He rose from his bed, the moonlight spilling across his bare shoulders. The air in his chamber shimmered faintly, the old wards reacting to his pulse. He could feel her heartbeat now, faint but steady, somewhere beyond the mountains. He had not told anyone about the dreams. The council would see it as weakness, the priestess as disobedience. But the wolf within him knew the truth. Something had gone wrong with the rejection. Bonds did not hum after they were broken. They faded. They died. This one was alive. Kaelin stepped to the window, looking out across the snow-covered valley. The towers of Silvercrest pierced the mist like black spears. Beyond them lay the Shadow Range, wild forbidden land where the exiled lived, and sometimes disappeared. If she had gone there he would never find her by law. But the wolf whispered again, low and certain, "She bleeds for us." He turned from the window, jaw clenched. Enough. Yet the moment he spoke the air shifted, and his vision blurred into the clearing he had seen in dreams. Lyra knelt beside a wounded wolf, its fur matted with blood, its flank rising in shallow breaths. Her cloak was torn, her face pale but fierce in the flickering firelight. She whispered to the creature in the old tongue, words that soothed pain and slowed death. Her touch glowed faintly silver. It was not the magic of a healer. It was something older, moonbound, sacred, dangerous. Kaelin's breath caught. He had thought her powerless. An Omega born to serve. But she carried the gift of the lost line, the Moonbearers, who could heal both flesh and soul. The same gift the court had feared. When she pressed her hands against the wolf's wound, the blood stilled. The beast trembled once, then shifted, bones reshaping, fur dissolving into skin. A man lay in its place, gasping for air, alive. Lyra sat back, trembling. "You'll live," she whispered. "Don't try to shift again until the moon rises." Kaelin's wolf surged, eyes burning gold. "Mate." The vision shattered. He stood again in his chamber, the echo of her heartbeat fading. His palms were slick with sweat. His wolf snarled, half joy, half agony. He needed to see her, to prove the bond had not revived itself. To end this if it had. By dawn he was already saddling his warhorse. The journey into the Shadow Range was forbidden to alphas of the court, but Kaelin had never been a man bound by laws he didn't write. The path climbed steeply, winding through pines and ridges that held the smell of frost and old magic. His wolf guided him more than sight, the invisible tether humming in his chest, faint but certain. Snow fell in spirals, turning the world to silence. By nightfall, he reached the ruins of the old watchtower. The faint scent of wood smoke lingered, and underneath it, hers. He dismounted slowly, every sense sharpened. There was no fire now, only the imprint of one. Footprints led away into the trees, light, careful, human. "Lyra," he said softly, though he knew she could not hear him. "Why did you run so far?" A sound drifted from deeper in the forest, a low whimper, not human. He followed it, hand resting on the hilt of his blade. The trees thinned into another clearing. There she was, cloaked in grey, hair loose around her face, kneeling beside another wounded wolf. Her hands glowed again. The creature's eyes rolled back, breathing ragged. She didn't notice him at first. "Hold on," she murmured to the beast. "You're safe. No one's going to hurt you now." Kaelin stepped forward. The snow under his boots gave a soft crunch. Lyra froze. Her head turned slowly, eyes finding his through the dark. For a heartbeat, neither moved. Then she stood, the firelight reflecting in her eyes like twin moons. "What are you doing here?" she asked. Her voice was calm, but he could feel her pulse race. "I could ask you the same. You made it clear I wasn't wanted." He took a step closer, and his wolf growled softly, not in threat, but in ache. "I didn't come to claim you." "Good," she said, though her hands trembled. "Because I won't be claimed." He almost smiled. "And yet here you are, healing wolves that bear my crest." Lyra glanced down at the wounded creature, saw the faint sigil burned into its fur. "Silvercrest." Her eyes darkened. "Your men hunt too close to the borders. They kill without reason. I heal without asking who they are." He knelt beside the wolf, the scent of cedar and snow filling the air between them. "This one attacked an envoy. He's lucky to be alive." She lifted her chin. "Then let him stay that way." For a long moment they said nothing. Snow drifted between them, silent and glowing in the firelight. Finally, Kaelin spoke. "The bond." "Don't," she cut in. "It's broken. You said so yourself." "I said the words," he murmured, "but I don't think the bond listened." Her eyes widened, the faintest tremor in her breath. "You're lying. I wish I were." He stood slowly, the air between them humming, the scent of pine and heartbeat. "You feel it too, don't you?" She turned away, pulling her cloak tighter. "Go back to your kingdom, Alpha." Kaelin hesitated, then said quietly, "It's already here." The night settled heavy around the clearing. The fire had burned down to embers, throwing faint gold across the snow. Lyra sat with her back to a tree, the rescued wolf sleeping beside her, its breath slow and even. Every few minutes she'd reach out and check the wound, fingers brushing the fur like it was something fragile. She could sense him still there, beyond the firelight. Kaelin. He had not left. She heard the faint clink of his armor when he shifted his weight, the exhale that carried a hint of his scent, cedar and storm. It drifted through the cold air and tangled with hers, a memory she wanted to forget but couldn't. Finally, she spoke without turning. "Are you planning to stand there all night?" His voice came low, rough-edged. "Until I understand what's happening to me." "You're cursed," she said, pulling her cloak tighter. "That's the easiest answer." He stepped into the light. Snow melted where his boots touched, as though even the cold respected him. "Then you share my curse, Omega." She looked up at him. "You forfeited the right to call me that. Would you rather I call you Lyra?" "Not if it means remembering." He crouched across from her, firelight washing over his face. The sharp plane softened. For once, he didn't look like a king carved from iron. "I tried to sever the bond," he said quietly. "The Moon Court demanded it. They said your line carried a sickness, a magic that could undo the pacts." Her mouth tightened. "They always said that. It's easier to call power a disease than admit you fear it." He watched her for a long moment. "You didn't deny it, because it's true. My mother was one of them. The Moonbearers. They could heal, but the gift demanded balance. Every life saved took a piece of their own. It's why I was cast out. They feared I'd take too much." The fire popped, sending sparks into the dark. Kaelin's jaw flexed. "The court used that fear. They told me rejecting you would protect the realm." She met his gaze. "And did it?" He didn't answer. The silence stretched, until the wind itself seemed to listen. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled, long and mournful, like a song for the lost. Lyra turned her head toward the sound. "That one's alone," she murmured. "You can hear it in the voice. Wolves sing differently when they have no pack." Kaelin's throat tightened. "And you?" "I stopped singing when I realized no one was listening." The words slipped between them like smoke. For the first time since that night at Silvercrest, Kaelin reached toward her. Not to command, not to claim, but simply to feel if she was real. His fingers brushed her wrist, the one still faintly marked with ash. A current shot through both of them, soft, but undeniable. Lyra's eyes widened. "Stop. I can't. Kaelin. Every night I hear your heartbeat in my dreams. Every breath I take smells like the moment you walked away. Tell me how to undo it, Lyra. Please." Her lips parted, trembling. "You can't undo destiny." The bond flared between them, a flash of silver light that sparked from their joined hands, and faded just as quickly. The sleeping wolf stirred, sensing the surge. They stared at each other in the aftermath. "You felt that," he said. "I did." "Then it's true." She shook her head, trying to steady her breath. "No. It means the moon hasn't finished punishing us yet." He almost laughed, the sound bitter. "So we're both prisoners of the same sentence." She rose to her feet, needing distance. "You should leave before dawn. The border guards will find your tracks. I'm not leaving you here alone. I've survived worse than loneliness." "You call this surviving," he said, stepping closer. "You heal strangers until your hands shake. You sleep beside dying wolves. You tell yourself you're free, but you've just built a different cage." Her eyes flashed. "Better mine than yours." He exhaled, and the anger softened into something else. "Regret?" "Maybe so. But I didn't come to chain you. I came because my wolf won't rest until it knows you're safe." Lyra looked at him for a long time. Her voice, when it came, was almost a whisper. "Then tell your wolf I'm fine." "I could," he said, "but it would be a lie." The wind shifted again. A faint howl rolled across the mountains. Not one wolf this time, but many. The wounded one beside them lifted its head, ears twitching. Lyra stiffened. "That's not your patrol." "No," Kalen said. "Those are ferals." Within seconds, shadows moved between the trees. 5, 6 shapes, their eyes glinting red under the moonlight. Wolves without minds. Lost to hunger and dark magic. The kind the court pretended didn't exist anymore. Kalen drew his blade, the runes along its edge flaring to life. "Stay behind me." Lyra didn't argue. Her power was healing, not fighting. But as the ferals closed in, she felt the bond between her and Kalen tighten like a drawn bowstring. His wolf surged to the surface, fierce and protective. When the first feral leapt, he met it mid-air, steel flashing. The blow split the creature's throat in a burst of black smoke. Another came from the flank. He spun, caught it, drove his blade through. Lyra knelt beside the wounded wolf, shielding it with her body. The air crackled with silver light as she whispered a barrier spell. Kalen fought like a storm. Efficient, brutal, beautiful. But there were too many. A feral lunged past him, jaws wide, and Lyra felt the teeth before she saw them. She raised her hand instinctively, silver light flaring, but too late. Kalen moved faster than thought. He threw himself between them. The feral's claws raked his shoulder, deep and bloody, before his blade ended it. The clearing fell silent again. Only his breathing filled the space. Lyra caught him as he staggered, blood soaking through his coat. "You shouldn't have, couldn't let it touch you," he said, voice hoarse. She pressed her glowing hands to his wound. The blood hissed under her touch, the healing power burning her palms. "You'll heal faster if you shift." He shook his head. "Not here. Not with you so close." "Why not?" His eyes met hers, gold blazing through grey. "Because if I shift now, I won't stop until you're marked." Her breath caught. The fire crackled. The snow fell slower, softer, as though even the night held its breath. And for one long, impossible moment, the bond between them felt like the only thing keeping the world from breaking apart. The fire burned low, throwing only a soft circle of warmth around the two of them. The dead ferals lay in shadows beyond the clearing, already turning to ash, their dark essence dissolving into the snow. The only sound now was wind and breath. Lyra knelt beside Kalen, her fingers trembling as she tried to unfasten the torn leather at his shoulder. Blood had soaked through the fabric, dark against the pale light. He didn't flinch when she peeled it back, only watched her with that quiet intensity that made her forget how to breathe. "You should rest," she said, forcing calm into her voice. "Not until I know what that magic was." She didn't look at him. "Old blood doesn't die easy. The ferals were drawn to it." "To you mean?" "To both of us," she said softly. Her hands glowed faintly as she pressed them to the wound. The scent of burned cedar filled the air. He inhaled sharply, a low growl caught between pain and pleasure. The magic sank into his skin, sealing torn muscle and vein. She could feel the bond pulse under her palms, alive and stubborn as a heartbeat. "Every time I touch you," she whispered, "it feels like the moon herself is watching." Maybe she is. Then she's cruel. Kalen caught her wrist before she could pull away. His hand was warm despite the cold. "She isn't cruel," he said quietly. "She's testing us." Lyra met his gaze. "Testing?" He hesitated, jaw tightening. "The court never told you why they wanted you rejected, did they?" She shook her head. They never tell the condemned their crimes. He released her wrist slowly. They came to me a month before the ceremony. Said the moon had sent a vision of the end of the Alpha line. Said the mark of that end would appear in silver ash on the wrists of the one I was meant to claim. Her breath caught. They told me, he went on, voice low, that if I accepted you the curse would spread through the packs. That I would lose my throne, that the wolves would turn feral one by one. And you believed them. I believed I had no choice. The court rules under the moon's light. No alpha disobeys a divine decree. She sat back, firelight painting her face in gold and shadow. So you chose the realm over the bond. I chose survival over faith. Lyra's hands fell to her lap. And yet the ferals you fear came anyway. Maybe the curse wasn't in me after all. Kaelin looked away. Snow drifted between them, silent and endless. I know that now. Now? She said bitterly. After the rejection burned itself into my skin. After you left me to rot in exile. He stood slowly, towering over her. But his voice was quieter than before. You think I slept after that night? I dreamed of you bleeding under the moons every time. I felt your pain in my chest like it was mine. That's not remorse, Kaelin, she said. That's the bond refusing to die. He took a step closer. Then tell me how to kill it. Lyra rose to face him, her heartbeat racing. You can't. The moon ties us until one of us stops breathing. He exhaled sharply. Then maybe that's what she wants. Proof we're willing to die for each other. The words hit something deep inside her. She hated that they did. For a long moment they stood in silence. The fire crackled, the night closing in. Finally, Lyra turned away. You should go back to Silvercrest. Tell your court their prophecy failed. Tell them the Omega they feared healed your soldiers instead of killing them. And what will you do? Keep walking, she said. Keep healing. It's all I have. He reached for her again, gentler this time. That's not all you have. She hesitated. Don't make me hope, Kaelin. I'm not making you. I'm asking you. Why? He took a breath. Because I was wrong. About everything. About you, the bond, the moon. If this is a test, I've already failed it once. I don't intend to fail again. Her throat tightened. You can't just unreject me. Then let me prove it's more than that. Lyra shook her head, stepping back. If the Moon Court finds out you came here, let them, he said. If they call it treason, I'll wear the name. She turned, trying to hide the tears that burned her eyes. You don't understand what they'll do to you. I understand that I can't breathe when you're gone. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You said once that freedom felt like emptiness with edges. I've lived in that emptiness since the night you left. Her lips parted, but no words came. The air between them shimmered, charged with the pulse of two hearts fighting the same truth. She wanted to hate him. The world would have made more sense if she could. But the bond hummed beneath her skin, like music she couldn't silence. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. If I stay, I lose myself. And if you go, he said, I lose everything else. The wind howled again. Not from the mountains this time, but from the valley below. Lyra's head turned sharply. The air smelled of smoke. Kaelin's eyes darkened. That's Silvercrest. Flames flickered on the horizon, orange against the snow. The bond between them pulsed once, hard enough to steal their breath. The court, Lyra murmured. They've set the wards alight. Or something worse, Kaelin said. The ferals shouldn't have come this far north. He grabbed his sword and glanced back at her. Stay here. She caught his arm. If the packs are turning, it's because of the same curse you tried to outrun. He met her gaze. Then we end it together. The firelight caught in his eyes like the promise of dawn. And though every instinct told her to run, Lyra nodded once. Then lead the way, Alpha. The ride back to Silvercrest was a blur of wind and firelight. The mountain path glowed orange from the flames spreading below. Wolves ran in chaos through the valley, their howls torn between fear and fury. The scent of smoke and iron filled the air. Kaelin rode ahead, his blade drawn, his wolf rising beneath his skin. Lyra followed close behind, her cloak streaming like shadow. The closer they came to the keep, the stronger the pull of the bond became, an invisible thread tightening until it burned. When they reached the outer gates, they found them broken. The courtyard that had once held torches and ceremony now burned with the light of a dozen fires. Bodies lay scattered. Guards, council wolves, ferals alike. Lyra's heart twisted. The wards fell. Salen dismounted, scanning the carnage. No. They were broken from within. From the great hall came the echo of chanting, the moon court's seal of command. He turned to Lyra, his voice low. "Stay behind me." She ignored him and followed anyway. Inside, the throne room was a ruin of ash and light. The high priestess stood at the center of a circle drawn in silver, her hands raised toward the cracked ceiling. The other elders knelt around her, their eyes glazed white. "Calen Thorne," she called when she saw him enter. "You defied the moon. You broke your vow." He stepped forward, sword gleaming. "And you burned my kingdom to hide your lies." The priestess's gaze shifted to Lyra. "There she is, the curse reborn." "The moon warned us." Lyra felt the bond flare again, fierce and alive. "The moon warned you of your own greed. You feared what you couldn't control." The circle at the priestess's feet pulsed with power. The elders began to whisper in unison, their voices rising like wind through broken glass. The air thickened, heavy with magic. Calen grabbed Lyra's hand. "Get back." The priestess's voice rose above the chanting. "You rejected her once, reject her again, and end this." The words slammed into his chest. The fire in the circle flared blue, hungry. He could feel the pull, the old command binding his oath to theirs. "Say it," she cried. "Say the words and save your line." Lyra stared at him, tears burning her eyes. "Calen," he looked at her. For a moment, time itself seemed to pause. The smoke hanging motionless, the light frozen on their faces. "I did once," he said softly. "And the world broke for it." The priestess screamed, "Then you choose ruin." "No," Calen said, raising his blade. "I choose truth." He plunged the sword into the silver circle. The floor split with a sound like thunder. Light burst upward, blinding, the walls trembling under the force. The spell shattered. The elders fell silent, the magic ripped from their throats. When the light cleared, the silver ash had spread across the room, and where it touched, life returned. The fires outside dimmed, the howls turned to cries of awakening. The ferals were shifting back into wolves, minds restored. Lyra stood in the middle of it all, the ash glowing faintly around her hands. She looked down at her palms. The mark that had once symbolized rejection now shone like a seal of light. Calen stepped closer, his voice rough but steady. "The curse was never in you. It was in their fear." Her breath trembled. "And the bond?" He reached up, tracing the edge of her jaw. "The bond was the cure." The moon itself broke through the smoke above them, flooding the hall in silver light. The bond between them pulsed once. No longer burning but whole. The mark on her wrist faded into skin, leaving only warmth behind. Lyra looked up at him. "You once said the words, 'I do not claim you.'" He smiled faintly, the first true smile she'd ever seen from him. "Then hear me now, under the moon's witness." He took her hand, pressed it against his heart. "I do." The last of the light rippled outward, sweeping through the keep, into the valley, into the hearts of every wolf that had lost its song. For the first time in a generation, the night was quiet, not empty, but peaceful. Lyra closed her eyes, leaning her forehead against his. "It's over," he whispered back. "Too late." She pulled back slightly, a soft laugh breaking through her tears. "Too late for what?" "Too late to pretend I ever stopped loving you." And for once, the moon did not punish truth. It blessed it. The days that followed blurred into healing. The keep was rebuilt. The court disbanded. The wolves who had once bowed to fear, now gathered under a new vow. One spoken not from duty, but from choice. Lyra walked often to the tower, where she had once lit her first fire in exile. Calen found her there one evening, his cloak dusted with snow. "You still come here," he said. "It reminds me that even the cold can keep you alive if you listen to it long enough." He smiled. "And what does it say tonight?" She looked out across the mountains. "It says nothing is ever truly lost. Some things just take the long way home." He slipped his arm around her shoulders. Then let's not waste what we found. She leaned against him, and for a long while they said nothing. The night wind carried the faint sound of wolves singing again. No longer in mourning, but in harmony. The story could have ended there. A kingdom healed, a bond restored, a prophecy rewritten. But as the screen fades to black, imagine his voice breaking through the silence. Older now, wiser, still carrying the rough warmth of the Alpha King. He says, maybe that's what rejection really is. Not the end, but the moment fate asks whether you'll walk away or wait for the truth to catch up. She said, I accept your rejection, Alpha. I thought it meant goodbye. Turns out, it meant she believed I'd find her again. What about you, listener? If someone told you they didn't want you, if they turned their back when every part of you knew they were meant to stay, would you walk away? Or would you wait for the truth to find its way back under the same moon? Leave your answer in the comments, because maybe, just maybe, the moon is still listening.